All right, everybody. Nick Wilson here from 92.3 The Fan. We are standing on the dais here with Warren Radio legends. We've got Dave Denholm now with the LAFC. We've got the owners, Art and Phil, who are, of course, characters of their own. Daryl Ryder, who works with me at The Fan, and, of course, was one of the great interns. Mighty Joe Gabriel, right, of Dan and Mighty Joe in the mornings. Dan McDowell's with us on the video there. As, of course, Dan is down in Dallas having too much success as well. And then A.J. Agresta from the afternoon show. If you guys do not quite recall about WRRO, for about a 3-year stretch, it was a on-fire sports talk radio station that has birthed 1,000 radio careers. And none of us have made any money. But that's okay. No, that wasn't the point. It's a passion project here. But now we're going to get into the times in Warren and all the shenanigans from the mid-'90s. All right, so we're going to start with Denholm because he's to my left, and we get to share a microphone. Dave, how did you come to WRO back in the day?
Well, I was a massive listener to WHK here in Cleveland, which is a station that Dan McDowell was a big part of, and AJ, and a few others, of course. Art and Phil knew that well, and so I really liked the style. And then I found out a lot of them were going out to work for Art and Phil in Warren, which I had never been to, frankly, even though I was born and raised in Cleveland. And so I just hustled my way out there and kind of begged, borrowed, and stole, and got myself to do a show, and the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, but you got to understand. You have to understand we had no money.
I think we understand that, guys.
So the good thing is we paid you guys nothing.
Well, they did it for the experience.
Yeah, but when you think about it, you look back at a career and you think about how you need to get going in this business. And this was an opportunity, and we thought that way, I'll be honest with you, because I started that way way back in the late 60s. I was working in Willoughby, Ohio, and then I wound up at WFMJ in Youngstown, Channel 21. But we felt this was an opportunity for us to build a radio station. We didn't have anything to start with. We had to get loans to buy the station, so we didn't have big dollars to pay. And we were able, we brought McDowell in from WHK, and we sat down, Phil and I, with Dan. I'll never forget, I think we were at Swingo's or something. And we told him what we wanted to do, and we wanted him to run the station. Well, for Dan, that was an opportunity to get away from, at that point, HK and just being like the behind-the-scenes dude and coming and running a radio station. And we basically said, run the station. The only thing we said is protect the license.
Exactly.
Don't get out there and cuss and this, that, and the other. And you guys still did what you wanted to do. But we were good about that. And that's how, frankly, we were able to hire a guy like Daryl or Dave or even McDowell and, frankly, your dad, the great Jim Wilson.
All right, now because we're starting to do our origin stories here in the business, we do have Dan McDowell here on the big screen. Dan, what is your first recollection of meeting Art and Phil and your first remembrance of the station?
Well, meeting Art and Phil, of course, I knew them in Cleveland, and Art just said something there. He said we had no money. That's the main, I thought that was their name. I thought that's what the Jewish term for hello was or something. We have no money.
He said we have no money.
Anyone that was hired was willing to, everybody sitting around here, maybe except for Art and Phil, we're not getting much money in this transaction. So
we
that was the
weren't
big
either.
thing.
We had to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We had to make sure that we had money to cash our checks. Your checks first.
I'll say this, though. That's what made the station great. I believe that. We were hungry. We were young. And honestly, it worked out great. I've been to a lot of stations. I'm going to say this, and I mean this sincerely. I've worked a lot of places, L.A., nationally, seen a lot of things, listened to a lot of radio stations, including the great Ticket, where Dan McDowell used to work. This is the best sports talk lineup I've ever heard. Bottom line.
Well, we had fun. We had fun, and basically, what we said, and I hopefully you guys would appreciate it. We said, do your thing and have fun. We didn't interrupt a lot of stuff. Like if Big Jim wanted to pull off some of his comedic stuff, and do the TV stuff that we did on Channel 33, and the fun stuff that we had, we didn't stop you as long as it didn't cost us a license.
Or
Frankly,
money.
Or money.
All right, so I do want to get to the end of the table here. AJ Agresta down there, Mr. Afternoons. AJ, tell us your first thoughts on working with Art and Phil, and maybe give us a story from the great time at RRO.
First, I want to say we got to talk about Shekelhoff for a second. He was a key part of this station, and he sadly passed away last year. Denholm?
Yeah. No.
He was a good dude, but we got to remember him. It was just a blast. Like these guys said, I like busting their chops, but they let us do whatever we wanted. I mean, literally, which was great because sometimes it would be awful, but sometimes you'd hit on stuff. You know what I mean? And they wouldn't care either way. Just do your thing. But so I do give these guys credit for the way they ran the station. And as much as it hurts, Dan was a pretty good program director.
Exactly. All right, Mighty Joe, come on here.
One more thing, and this is for 3 people. Who did it? That's it.
Who did it?
All right, Mighty Joe, give us maybe a recollection or two there.
Okay, the first thing I wanted to say is how much success the alumni from WRO had coming out of the station. It was such a small little station. We didn't have any money, and yet look at how well everyone did, including you, Nick. I mean, your dad was a legend. I'm going to tell a story about your dad, but Daryl, I think, is the best radio sports reporter in Cleveland right now.
Absolutely.
Dave Denholm went on to great things, I know, in L.A. Eric Boland, who is not here, I think he's sports editor for the New York Post. Right.
And Newsday.
And Newsday.
Newsday.
Newsday. Okay, so everybody that came from here went on to some pretty big things, and that's a tribute, I think, to Dan McDowell, in that he really found great talent. But I think the greatest talent is not here, and that is your father.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Big Jim Wilson, Nick's father, was an absolute legend. He was big. He was Big Jim Wilson, but he was also a big personality. And as funny as he was as kind as he was. And my story is going to be, Dan hired Big Jim Wilson, and we didn't know anything about him, and he said he's going to bring an intern with him to the station. So we said, okay, well, we didn't know what either one of them looked like. And the station is on a square, and here comes Big Jim Wilson with a little guy, bald-headed, Tommy Lowe. He was blind. And it was Big Jim Wilson, and arm in arm, they were locked arms, and Big Jim took Tommy Lowe, this little blind guy, with him everywhere. His name was Sean Tomello, and he had a real rough life, but Jim was so kind, and Tommy Lowe screwed everything up. He mislabeled every cart, he got everything wrong, and Big Jim just loved him and brought him along. And
He made phone calls that he shouldn't have.
Right, he did everything wrong, and he was just funny, and again, we broke all the rules, but that's my best memory is your dad. He was a legend, and again, he was the kindest man and the funniest man, and that's part of the reason I'm here.
Well, I really appreciate hearing that. I still remember the only time I've ever stayed up for radio political coverage was 1996, where my dad, who did not want to do it but had to, sent Tommy Lowe out to the Warren precinct. And he would have Tommy Lowe call in, and he'd go, all right, we go out to Tommy Lowe, our blind correspondent out at the Warren, and then he would say, Tommy, what are you seeing? And he would just say, not a damn thing, Jim. Back to you. And that was about half of the reports. And every time they did it, I laughed even harder. And I think I might have actually been at the place, just sitting outside the glass facade there, just dying at 11 years old.
Yeah, he made great use of Tommy Lowe. He really did. He made him feel special.
Well, how about the TV show? He was in the TV show.
In the TV
One
show,
of the
too.
cuts, driving a car, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was also part of the Pretty Woman skit, I think, Tommy Lowe was.
Probably.
Yeah, that TV celebration got my
Channel
dad
33
in so much shit because my dad didn't realize he was smoking a J when they were filming, and my mom was staunchly anti-smoking J's, and oh my God. And then every time she says, babe, it's my career. That's part of the career. She did not buy it one single damn bit. She thought he could have done it without pot, but I don't know anybody who knew Big Jim thought that's true.
Channel 33 keep it on, or did they decide to cancel it? Do you remember?
I do not recall, no.
Listen, we also did the Christmas show. We did the caroling on the square. were instrumental in getting people to come to that square in Warren when nobody would dare go outside past 6 o'clock at night for Christmas, and we had the whole town excited for a change, and that didn't last long.
Well, listen, the mass shooting had something to do with that, but it's Warren. That was to be predicted. All right, Daryl.
How about the time on the square, and your dad was sitting outside, and they had a rally, and they had I can only remember the guy, but he was a militant, somebody that was speaking on the square in Warren, and they had a lot of people, and your dad was outside, and they were covering it and doing interviews, and do you remember that at all? Huh? You do?
I believe they were white supremacists. If we're I'm trying not to rip the Band-Aid off here.
Ryder knows all this. He ain't saying
Sadly, I remember a lot about Warren, Ohio, as a native son.
All right, now, Daryl, we've given our origin stories here, so now it is your turn
Well,
to talk about being one of the great interns of WRRO.
Right.
Well, I went from intern to employee. The paycheck wasn't much different.
Absolutely.
In fact, I have the pay stub somewhere still as mementos to remind myself how rich I am today.
Is there anything more of a radio guy who keeps old pay stubs to be pissed about 30 years later?
But we have your dad to thank for my career. I was doing PA at my high school for basketball. Eric Boland recommended I get into radio. I certainly had the face for it. This was before YouTube and all the video blogs and stuff came along. And so I did. I jumped in with both feet, ended up with your dad and these guys. I think your dad wanted to fire me about 20 times, but he just didn't have the heart to do it.
I do not recall.
No, I
definitely
remember,
didn't hear anything when you pissed him off 3 or 4 times.
I remember you running around the radio station as a little 7-8-year-old kid. Inspired me not to have children, so I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome, and so are your non-existent kids.
Yes. But no, the thing that I take away from those days at that station was not just how much I was able to learn from these guys, from Dan, from your dad, AJ, Joe, Dave, everyone that worked there, but just how close everybody was and how for as dysfunctional it was, it really was functional. To this day, I still don't know how, but everybody did their job. Everybody had fun doing their job, except for on payday. And, it just, it's what they were saying. The fact that all of us came from this little station in Warren, Ohio, the success that Dan has had, Dave, Joe, Eric Boland, myself to a lesser degree, your dad even after that went on and did great stuff too. So that's what I take most away from
Well, I will tell you that we as owners and we as people who helped try and develop talent, we're very proud of everybody who has worked there.
Absolutely.
We are very, very proud that all of you have attained the success that you really want. And you even have attained it as individuals also. It says a lot about your character and a lot about your abilities to have succeeded in a very competitive medium that is facing all sorts of problems as we speak. But it's a credit to you guys, and we feel very proud of every single one of you. So take that to the bank.
Yeah, Daryl, I also want to comment that I think it worked because, quite frankly, talent. You guys are the most talented people I've ever worked with, the people I worked with at WRRO. And it starts with Dan, really. I do want to say that. Dan, he's the best in the business, in my humble opinion, and always was. And he always gave us a shot, and he taught us a lot. He taught me a ton about how to do radio, how to be entertaining, more importantly. We're not in the sports business. We're not in the radio business. We're in the entertainment business, and Dan McDowell knew that better than anybody from day one, at least since I've known him, and truly couldn't be where I am without him, and I appreciate everybody who I worked with at that station, and Art and Phil, for giving us all shots, which we probably didn't deserve, quite frankly, and just such a great place. And your father was the best, man. Not a bad word ever about anybody, just so much fun. I really appreciate you gathering us here today, Nick. I truly do. Thanks.
David, Dan was really a creative
Jim was
guy.
great, except the time he stole our pod.
He went to Ohio.
What did he say?
All right, Dan said Big Jim was great, except the time he stole our pot. I think he was borrowing it. I don't think he realized.
Where did he keep it?
He reimbursed us.
Do you know?
I want to do that.
Do you know how many morning shows I did with your dad where I had to sweat running the board whether or not he was making it back in time for a commercial break? He knew when I got to the second song, it was time for him to come back in, and I still had to go out and get him.
There's also the time where there was a newsman that worked at the station who I'm not no names please, but where Chip had a habit of coming in after a tying one on the night previously, and my dad got very annoyed, and Chip was speeding through his update because he was about to mess himself. And my dad held him on air for 5 minutes with questions about local politics until all of a sudden you just heard, "Oh," into a microphone. And it happened on air, and then my dad had to help Chip find some clean underwear. So just a little remembrance there.
Chip Binderstein.
I have another Big Jim story. We could tell Big Jim stories all
I
day.
can't tell if somebody's talking. Sorry.
Let Dan.
Part of the content in Warren, the most successful business in Warren is the hot dog shop. Yeah. The hot dog, no matter what's closed down in Warren, the hot dog shop is humming at all times. So we did a promotion with the hot dog shop of a business. I don't know what they had to do, but if they won business of the week, they would get a whole big box of hot dogs, just all loaded up, and these are the best hot dogs. And so we'd have celebrities deliver the hot dogs to them. And the first week we had it, or one of the first weeks, or the first week, Big Jim and Tommy Lowe were supposed to deliver the hot dogs to the business. They drove at some point at 1 o'clock. The business is calling up and saying, "Hey, we won the hot dogs. Where are the hot dogs?" And they call back up at 2 o'clock, and Dan's looking around. We're calling your dad. And eventually Big Jim, maybe at 4 o'clock, called and said, "Hey, we got lost. We just couldn't find this business." And then later he admitted that they just took the hot dogs and drove home and ate them. So,
You can imagine.
yeah.
All right, now we do have to give Dan a few seconds here because he has been waiting patiently. Dan, I would like you to personally react to everyone saying you're the most talented here.
No, I did want to.
Wait, Dan,
react
I
to
didn't
that.
say that.
Just say
Not everyone.
While we're all blowing each other, I would like to get on my knees a little bit for Art and Phil, because certainly the money thing stands out first. But recently on the show I'm doing now, we'll revisit some past whatever. So I have a folder full of old memos and stuff that people, maybe they were upset with us, or just a letter from a listener. And we got one from SeaWorld, Joe, apparently. We were out at SeaWorld and angered SeaWorld, and they said that they would spend no more money with us. We got one from people that were upset that we were making fun of the fact the hot dog shop was burning down one morning. All kinds of stuff. But the thing is, Art and Phil didn't care about. They thought it was great. And I've worked for a lot of guys, different people after working for Art and Phil. And they do not think letters like that are great. And they'll call you in for a meeting and just talk about, what you think you want the station to represent. And we shouldn't be getting, complaint letters. And Art and Phil are like, yeah, whatever. Like they said, don't lose the license, but otherwise... get people nuts, get people going crazy, and those guys allowed the creativity to just come out of everybody, because there was no governor on anything. It was like, let's go, just try stuff, do something different. Let's see if it works.
My favorite Dan McDowell moment, ruffling feathers, when Warren came out with the most ridiculous slogan ever, the City for Tomorrow. Right. And we all got in the production studio and we sang Youngstown, the city for tomorrow, full of grief and sorrow. And the mayor of Youngstown, I remember, calling Art and Phil and basically wanting Dan McDowell's head on a spike for it. Might be the greatest moment in radio history, and I'm not being facetious at all. Just, I wish I had a copy of that to this day, because that just was hilarious. It was my first exposure to pushback in the business, when you get pushback from the powerful people, and the way Art and Phil stood up for Dan and stood up for the morning show, and that was a moment that I'll never forget, and not only for the comedic value, but also to just the intrinsic value of learning to stick up for the people that you're employing.
So
I think one of the things, though, I think the way we felt, Phil and I came from pretty powerful radio stations in Cleveland. I was at MMS, Phil was at Magic. We were running the stations, sales managers, etc. So, I worked for Mallright. He was with, at the time, J-Corp, right? J-Corp. And these are big companies, and we understood. So here we go into Youngstown, and we buy a radio station. And the reason we left WHK, because Phil and I started WHK, because the owners at the time, rest in peace, Carl Hirsch, and even Tony Osepic has passed away, these guys that own the station. We knew they were going to sell it. We got wind that they were going to sell HK. And I said to Phil, we better find something to do because we're going to be out of here. Now, God rest his soul, Les Levine, who was our anchor, and Tony Rizzo. We didn't tell them what we knew was going to happen. So we went out and got a station, and we felt that if we could take this AM station, which I remember when I was on FMJ back in the 70s, this was the old WHHH, which was a pretty powerful station in the Warren market. So I figured we've got to do something to make our name known because, at that point, Clear Channel was in there. They owned half a dozen stations, and I think Cumulus was there. And so that's why we felt that if we had the station we had and we developed personalities, all you guys didn't have any history, and we let you do your thing and you were talented, look what happened. And it put us on the map. We took a station. You guys got to understand, from a business standpoint, when we bought the station from a young lady who her backing was a guy that owned quite a few Save-A-Lot stores, and then they had Jim Trafficant, who was involved too with him. He used to have an office in the basement of our station. So we had to do something, and that's really kind of how this thing developed. We just figured, let's go, let's do it, let's have fun. And we did. Look at all the ball games we did. Remember, we had a situation that the Steel Valley was on the radio stations, I think Cumulus or whatever, and they didn't want us doing games in the Warren area. And we said, what, are you kidding me? And I knew a couple of the guys, like, particularly, I don't want to mention names at this point, the guy who was the athletic director at Ursuline was a football coach when I was there doing TV. And I remember going in, and he says, Art, please don't do anything. I said, and we did the games, if you remember, guys.
Stands.
Eric Bolin did them in the stands.
Yeah.
We said, the hell with it. If you're not going to let us do it, we'll do it on the phone. And we did that, remember?
Yeah, Art and Phil are the first people probably in America to let someone do high school soccer play-by-play on the radio that nobody had ever heard of before. And you guys let me go out there and do it.
But I'll tell you what, Dave, I believed in that. When I was on television, and I was the anchor on 21, and I created this Athlete of the Month thing, and I got coaches, and we had a board, and we did this, and I said to them, I don't want to just pick football and basketball players.
Yeah.
How about wrestling, tracks? And we did. We picked all kinds of different athletes. The point is, the families of those kids, that's so important into the community, and that's how we...
Oh, they loved it. It's funny, the first few games I went to, people were like, what? What are you doing? You're actually going to call these games, these soccer games? But after a while, yeah, they loved it. Absolutely.
Right.
It became part of the community, no doubt.
Does anyone remember the lights on the towers being shot out by the people who lived in Lordstown, and having people say, your lights are out on the transmitter. Your lights are out on the transmitter, which, heaven forbid, a plane would crash. We're liable for it. Why? Because people were going into our transmitter field and shooting out the lights. And we had to hire people to go up on the... I had to tell the police, you do it. You replace it. It's not like going to the hardware store and buying a bulb for $1. But that was what I remember. And Dan said he would have to drive by and say, lights are out. Lights are out on Tower 3. The lights are out.
So what I remember the first time after my dad got hired, my dad was doing, I think, middays, which means I got to catch the end of Mighty Joe and Dan. And I swear, every like a hallucinogenic scene in a movie does the same thing, where they like you start to close in on the person, their eyes get real wide and White Rabbit cues. That's exactly what watching the final 15 minutes of Mighty Joe and Dan did to my adolescent brain. And it broke me I had jobs in other fields. It was never going to work out because of the first 15 minutes I watched of you guys into my dad's first 15 minutes. And it just, again, like you can say, did it make me better? Did it make me worse? We'll never really know, but I do know it changed my life.
Better.
Yeah, better, yeah. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be making more money in any other thing. But I do want to speak to Art and Phil because I don't know Art or Phil. I only know Art and Phil.
Well, there you go.
And they didn't just give everybody here a chance. I got 5 cents a cart to scrub carts at night. I also was allowed. Actually, I believe that was why I couldn't tell anyone till now.
Got that much
And
money?
you guys, my dad cleared it with you guys that I could board up partially Pittsburgh Pirates games.
Right.
So my first radio experience didn't start when I was 21. It started when I was about 10 running Pirates games. And to my credit, that's actually the best board hopping I've ever done because once I got to be 21, I was really shitty at it.
Nick, don't feel so special. They had me run Pirates games too, okay?
I think the 10-year-old gets a little bit more of the wow
Wasn't that
factor
much
there.
older.
That's true. Daryl was, yeah. I still remember going out to Daryl's house, playing football with him, and eating, I think it was ravioli that your parents made.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to shock you. Jim Wilson was high that night, and he had most of the ravioli.
He was.
Yeah.
Hey, how about the apartments we got you guys?
Yeah, is that the one where my dad got robbed in front of? I couldn't
Well, one was
remember.
nice, except it was in Newton Falls.
So what?
The city closed down at 8 o'clock. Good Lord, couldn't even get a pizza.
So Dan, when you used to get called in, did you explain to him that these were license prevention deals that you did? That you had doing it in the public service? They were part of the public file?
I don't know. Dan's going to answer.
Yeah, he's
Dave,
no
your turn.
comment.
Can't hear him. Go ahead, buddy. We got
No, I'm sorry, I can't hear some of the chatter. I heard Phil right there.
Well, I wanted to know that when you were called in and trying to be disciplined by your producers and program directors, when you went through some of our old bits, did you tell him that it was for the public file that you did this?
I apologize. I lost Phil after he said going to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Is the Zoom almost over?
Okay, I can hear it now.
No, we wanted to know if those bits, what the excuse was that you did them for the public file.
With the other stations?
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have used that. No, I wasn't quick enough on my feet.
Oh man.
I was just surprised because I had worked for you guys. So why would you call me in? This is a good bit. Like Joe remembers, Joe and I went to Dayton together.
Right.
Yep.
And the guys we had to work for that would put their oppressive thumb down upon our show on a daily basis, like there was no way to grow there. That's the thing. So I think at the Warren thing, you could kind of grow and figure out who you are. Whereas
Well, I think
other
the big
places
thing
are
was
trying to put you in a little box. Not
Yeah.
the good kind of box. You know what I mean, boys?
I do know what you mean.
a bad box.
I don't have to tell you.
That was the great thing about Warren is that Dan trusted the talent and said,
Do it.
yeah, and Art and Phil.
Yeah.
They trusted the talent. Said, you guys are.
Well,
I think you're funny. Be funny.
I remember when Dan came to me and he said, "Listen, I have this opportunity in Dayton," which made me feel I didn't like it at the moment, but the fact that somebody drove through the market, heard you guys, thought, "Boy, this is a talent," and obviously that's how you got to Dayton. Then let's look at what happened after that. Big Jim went to Dayton. Okay, so move on a few years.
And one employee of the year at the
He did?
employee of the year. Yes.
He did.
He did.
He
No,
smoked
really
his
did.
way to the top.
Honestly, he won employee of the
No,
year.
he was production guy. I remember visiting him
We
in
went down
Dayton.
in Dayton.
And then when I got the job in Akron at Rubber City Radio, they needed to get a production guy. And I immediately went to the PD. I don't even want to mention his name because I don't care about him. But the bottom line is I went to him and said, I got a guy that we got to get. And that's how, I got in touch with him in Dayton. They interviewed him, and he wound up in Akron, which was great because your family, Nick was back up in this area, and he loved coming back. And he was there till he passed away.
Well, I know we're talking mostly about RRO here, but I know you guys felt a little oppression in Dayton. Dan in Dayton, when you guys, I think it was a meteor or something, and of course, Wright Pat Air Force, the 48 hours after a meteor was witnessed in Dayton, Ohio, and Dan just let the crazy ass calls roll were some of the funniest radio I have ever heard in my life. Because Dan would interview them seriously. It would be like, I think it's the Heaven's Gate people coming back. And Dan would be like, now why do you think that? And just let the crazy roll on. And you'd think he couldn't possibly go on. Like this is a 3-minute call. And it'd be an 8-minute call. And it would never, there was never like a finishing crescendo. It was just, you had to go to break.
Did they edit you guys, Joe?
In Dayton?
I think we were just trying to kill time.
They tried. They really tried to edit us, but Dan was very hard-headed, so he just kind of pushed right through.
When it crashed here earlier this month.
Yeah, it was so much fun, though. There's so many names that come kind of flooding back. Tim Continenza, you guys remember Bob Church, the great Bob Church.
Bob passed away.
Oh, yeah, rest in peace, Bob. And just so many people. Mario, who was one of the hosts. Yeah, just great people, and just
Jennifer was middays.
too much fun, and just I was always laughing. Bottom line, it was fun. It was fun to come to work. And you don't get that all the time.
Well, listen.
Do you guys know that the big ornate glass door had WRRO etched on it? Are you familiar with the door I'm speaking of when you walked in the door?
Yes.
What happened?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I bought that. I own that door.
You bought the door?
You
bought the front door.
Joe and I, when I go back to Cleveland to visit family and such, Joe and I will take a trek to this hot dog shop. I haven't eaten meat, by the way, in 15 or 20 years. I do not eat red meat anymore because I'm a dirty liberal, tree hugger. And but I will eat meat once a year, and that's with Joe at the hot dog shop. We'll eat a couple of hot dogs. And so we went to the WRO, and it's like a sewing shop now or something. I don't know, dry cleaner. But they had the WRO ornate door still. And I told the lady I wanted to figure out I want to buy this door, and they got us in touch with the owner of the building, and I own that piece of glass. I have that piece of glass right now.
Don't cut yourself on it.
Well, I want to put a button on this by saying something that you said at the start, which is how much talent there was at this station. I have worked at multiple stations in my career. I love the station that I'm at. Your guys' station is what has always been the station in my head. The show that my dad and I wanted to do when I was growing up, and we just never got the chance to, is the show that I have in my head that I program against every day. You guys were fearless. I think back when I don't know if I have the balls to say something. I think back to you guys. I'm not blowing smoke here. From how you guys treated me as a loud, ADHD-driven 9-10-year-old kid, to how everybody on the staff, like Dan would let me on the show. He'd throw my ass off if I said nice things to my friends. No shout-outs. That was the deal. No shout-outs. But he always let me on. You guys let me come into the studio. I was a little mascot. You guys would ask me for my Albert Bell takes for no freaking reason. You guys, this station really is the thing that plays in my head that I see as like the ideal version of what a station can and should be. And the good parts of where I work are overlapped with what I always saw growing up at WRRO. That's a really nice way to put a button on that. That was like a very nice. AJ's gonna shit on it.
Yeah, I am. There's been more compliments given in this half an hour. How long?
Let me hear AJ. I can't hear AJ. I want to hear AJ.
How long were we at that station? 3 years, there's been more compliments in the last 30 minutes than in 3 fucking years. I don't like it.
Well, you never compliment I can't compliment Ken Carmen in real time. 30 years from now, I'll be like, what a talent, what a guy, voice of Cleveland. Now it's like, Ken who? I guess he's on the station too. All right, guys, one final word from everybody.
Nick, just to kind of summarize, and Phil said this before. I know we joke around and this, that, and the other, but we are very proud as guys that own that radio station, and even going back to the HK days. We didn't own it, but we put that station together. Very proud of the success that you guys have had in all your careers. I mean, we talk about Darryl all the time, and you too, Nick, because people hear you in Cleveland and knowing where you guys came from. And it really makes us proud to know that, because our careers we're long gone. We're into seniors. So, however, we've created a monster, Phil and I, since we retired.
Again.
And we'll make it real quick. We created the Mind Challenge, which is senior trivia. And we start Monday, we will have 75 cities in Northeast Ohio participating in an NCAA type tournament for seniors. And we go for 6 weeks. And we wind up at the end of May, in fact, in Independence here, with the finals and semifinals. And it's blossomed. This is our 8th year. We're going to have almost 900 seniors playing. So we've come out of retirement, and we're working more and more.
So try and figure out playing again and trying to appease 900 grandmothers.
Yeah. Wow.
I was just thinking about the segment Dan and Joe would do about the Mind Challenge. And now I can't stop laughing.
I think it'd be great. I'd love to hear it.
That's your assignment, Nick.
Last thing I want to say is thanks to Nick Wilson for getting us all together, man. That took a lot of effort, and thank you so much. And you're carrying the torch. You and Darryl are carrying the torch for RO. Every time you go on the radio, you're carrying the torch for us. So thanks, man.
Thank you, guys. Well, thank you guys very much for showing up. It was so great to see. AJ, I have not seen you in 30 years. Dave, I talked to. We text quite a bit, but I have not seen probably in 30 years.
The guy we forgot who worked with us.
I would like to have a final word.
Jeff Sack. You remember Jeff Sack?
Jeff Sack.
Right, that's who I kept thinking about. He was
Jeff
doing
Sack.
updates and all kinds of stuff.
Dan should get the final word.
All right, Dan, final word, buddy.
No, a final word. I don't want the final word.
Nope, you get
but
the
my
final
final word would just be that the fact that we're doing this, it's like a random card show on a random day in a random. Yeah, this is very WRO. Just kind of thrown together at the and kind of figuring it out. Like I was on the phone last night with Les Levine's kid, of all things, just trying to figure out how we're going to get this broadcast hooked up. And we kind of did it well, but not really that great. So that's WRO.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Thank you very much, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Now get the hell off my screen.